Today is going to be a Sunday morning session, and I'm listening to more substantial orchestra work today. It's about 20 minutes long. It's called Holocene Extinction by Canadian composer Harry Stafylakis. And this piece was written in 2017. The full instrumentation is 3-3-3-3, 4-3-3-1, timpani, percussion, one player, and harp, piano, and strings. Now the doublings: third flute doubles on piccolo, third oboe doubles on is on English horn, third clarinet is on bass clarinet, third bassoon's on contra, and third trombone's on bass. The percussionist has a pretty big setup. We got Glock, three crotals, bowed, vibes, xylophone, marimba, just one tubular bell, the E4, cymbals, suspended cymbal, tam-tam, snare drum. And this is probably one of the cleanest instrumentation lists I've had the pleasure of looking at in this series. It's so easy to see. Yeah, as for the occasion and origin of this work, it was commissioned by the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, which was probably, also supported by the Canada Council for the Arts. It's pretty common in Canada to have an arts council help you with your commission. And at the time, it seems that Harry was at the iPark Foundation as a resident composer. This is in East Haddam, Connecticut. And it was premiered a year later, or maybe a couple months later, at the Winnipeg New Music Festival in 2018. And I think I may have even... No, I wouldn't have been at this one because I was just graduating. I think I attended 2019, and then I saw this performed again just last year in 2024. So he explains what the Holocene epoch is. In geological terms, it's like the most recent epoch spanning the past 11,000 years, and people are talking a lot about the Anthropocene epoch, starting to establish it around now because we are really seeing the effects of climate change and mass extinction. But he doesn't really mention the Anthropocene in here, but I can kind of see the connection. And yeah, he talks about how we're going through a mass extinction event currently, and this would be the sixth one. And it's a symphonic poem, split up into three movements. We got Eden, Arrival, and Threnody. And then Eden imagines, obviously, an idyllic Earth, pre-humanity. Arrival involves humanity, and then Threnody is more of a personal response to the tragedy that is our current the current state of the world's biodiversity, etc. And there is a fourth movement, Hammerfall, which is more industrial. The first page of the score looks like this. It's very clean, starting with a drone in the strings and this harp figure, some bowed vibraphone stuff with motor off, and some bowed crotals. He's from Montreal, currently working in New York, Juno nominated. And he's been the composer in residence with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra for a number of years, helping curate the Winnipeg New Music Festival, which is an annual festival between 1 and 2 weeks every January. And he's collaborated with the Jack Quartet, Roomful of Teeth, Evelyn Glennie, and other ensembles. In 2019, he collaborated with the metal band Animals as leaders, brought them to Winnipeg um, to perform some music for metal band and orchestra. And that's one of his more eccentric interests. He's a guitarist, he loves metal music. Um, and yeah, just a couple of years ago, he released Calibrating Friction, which is like another crossover project with like prog metal and classical music. Um, so if that sort of thing interests you, definitely check Harry's stuff out. I'll see if I notice anything in this piece in particular, but I'm not the most well versed in prog metal. Um, I was obsessed with Tool for a little while as a teenager, but um, that's sort of where it stopped. I should also mention probably I worked with Harry because he runs this Composers Institute with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, and I got to take advantage of that opportunity, which is a really incredible thing for Canadian composers. Um, and I hope it continues to thrive. And if Harry continues in this position as composer in residence, I'm sure it will. Okay, he does have it, but it's split up into separate recordings on his SoundCloud. So I'll just provide a link to each individual recording. Um, and it looks like they're all between 3 and 6 minutes long. So pretty digestible, I think. Yeah, so this was a pretty good listen. I think I focused a lot more of my attention on the aspects that are more metal about this and might be influenced by metal. And yeah, there's definitely some very groovy sections, especially, I mean, some of the closing stuff here in the fourth movement, but that same repeated note idea in the second movement, I think, is, yeah, it's very just groovy and groove based, and I think that's definitely shows a metal influence. I think you kind of have to um, ignore the differences in technology and really think about what the performers are doing, right? And it's like what the orchestral musicians are asked to play, and the physicality of them playing it is actually very metal. But the sound of it, I mean, there's no amplification, there's no electronics or distortion, so it still just sounds like an orchestra piece. I guess there is that delicate balance that has to be maintained because it is a commission for an orchestra. They do want to play things that are idiomatic and reminiscent of the canon, and I think Harry does a pretty good job of not taking things too far in the metal direction. But in terms of like my favorite moments, I'll pretty much all of them are in the second movement. I think the second movement is like really metal, and I want it to go on longer. I want it to be more like an 8 minute piece. Some of the most interesting moments for me were like the quieter moments that involved like harp and celesta and piano. I really like the way he used those instruments in the ensemble. They have a little moment in the third movement, but he also introduces the celesta at the beginning of the third movement. And I think right from the start of the piece, he establishes that these sort of like more tactile, plucked string and keyboard instruments are going to have a major role in the piece. I remember as an undergraduate student, I really did want to like incorporate my band bass playing days into my music, and I really did want to make like metal crossover stuff for a time, but I kind of just gave up on it. And I think the fact that Harry's out here doing it, I think, is a really cool thing. Even if it's not necessarily the way I would go about it, it's still he's still out there doing it. So um, that's sort of my takeaway, is that it's pretty cool.